Finally. And Gary Salyer, our first guest, I will introduce him because I want him to have all his time to talk about, well, I'm going to also interview him, but I want to give him plenty of time because he has a lot to share. Dr. Gary Salyer is a transformational relationship mentor. Love that title. For the last decade, he has been in private practice, offering singles and couples heart-centered transformation so they can rewrite the rules for love in their brains and create a love that lasts. Dr. Gary speaks to a national audience as a featured expert on various celebrity TV and radio shows such as Hay House Radio, Coast to Coast AM, and KCBS. He's the author of the groundbreaking book, Safe to Love Again, which is right here, How to Release the Pain of Past Relationships and Create the Love You Deserve. And you could see I have bookmarked it all over the place. It's a fantastic book. So I'd really love to bring him on and have him talk about what he does so well. And it's my pleasure to introduce my friend and sometime potential collaborator, Dr. Gary Salyer.
Dina, it's great. It's great seeing you again, and everybody here as well. Happy to be here. So I had to take off. I realized I left the windows open, and if the leaf guy comes by, we don't want that in the background.
Oh, yes, right.
So just clear, like, oh no, the windows are open. So happy to be here.
So Gary, I am so fascinated by your journey, how you went from teaching at a college to what you're doing now, and even before that, how your journey has progressed to bring you to where you are now. So I would love it if you just share a little bit about that journey. Start from the day you were born. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, the day I was born, I was not named. It took my mother. My mom was so disappointed that she had a boy that, and I didn't know this until I was 15, and Aunt Evelyn ratted her out. Aunt Evelyn was good for ratting most people out. She was the official rat in the family. She told me that my mother didn't name me for 3 weeks because she was so disappointed. And it wasn't until some state troopers showed up to the house, said, ma'am, state law says you have to name the kid. And when she refused, I guess they said something to the effect of, well, you can either make up a name here or we can take you to some place where you'll have lots of times. And so she came up with Gary Cooper and Dean Martin. So now with that, you can imagine that, I write a lot about one of the secure feelings of love is welcome with joy. I'm imagining that wasn't so much there, and it wasn't. So growing up in a functional family with a mother that would be definitely borderline personality disorder, by the time I was 7, I remember being at a family party where there's a whole group of alcoholics. Nobody had graduated from college in high school in 7 generations. So I kind of broke that mold. And I remember looking at my 2 uncles being drunk and being mean to my 2 favorite aunts and thinking, why can't people just be more loving? Why do they have to be mean? Even at 7, some part of my soul was looking like, I don't get why we have to be this way. So I decided I was never going to be divorced. Not me, ever. No way, no how, nada, 9. So I go to college and I'm going to take a psychology degree and I have a religion degree as well. And my senior year, my favorite professor says, hey, we got this experimental test. Come on in. I want to give it to you. So I took it, and then he calls me to his office and a couple of days later and gives me the results. And then he says, as I'm walking out, oh, by the way, the test says that you have a 90% chance of being divorced. I mean, bombs going off. So I stayed a 5th year after I could have graduated, just, a month later. I delayed and got another degree in marriage and family. I was going to stave this thing off. So imagine what it was like when, 10, 12 years later, my first wife that I met in college goes, I want a divorce. I'm floored. I did everything. What do you mean a divorce? I have 2 degrees. not that that really touched her heart at the time, but, and then I do 7 years of therapy. And while therapy helped me a great deal, it did not change the core pattern of how I either created distance or chose. Because my second wife, I outsourced it to her. She created all the distance, and I got a good taste of my, you know, karma. And it was somewhere after that, that one day after a painful breakup, I just was looking at the mirror, and I remember looking, there's nobody in this pattern that's but you. All 2 wives and painful breakups. You're the only consistent factor. And I said, if they can't crack the code, then I will. That was how it came about. That's how I came to do what I'm doing, because I thought, I have worked, I've got degrees, I've done therapy. Why did it not work out? Why am I still in the same patterns? And that was when, I started asking, well, I got 2 best friends that are married for like 30 years, 25, whatever it was. And I'm going, what are their brains doing differently than mine does? And that was the question. And I just embraced it as a soul level calling. So if you want to know, that's how I got into it. And everything that I do still is answered by that, is that question. How do you get neurons to make better friends in your brain so that they're not firing off distance, they're firing off closeness? How do you, or whatever the feeling is, whatever that pattern is, it's about feelings long held. And how do you get those feelings, your brain, what's called implicit memory and neuroscience, how do you get implicit memory to give up those those feelings, and embrace that it's safe to feel welcome, safe to feel worthy, safe to feel cherished, and safe to be empowered? Those are the 4 feelings I isolate in my book.
Can you say them again? Just one more time?
Well, the 4 feelings that tell your brain that you're loved. I asked the question, if we're going to do this, what tells a brain that they're loved? And my attention went back, in attachment science, there's 4 different types of love styles, habitual ways you create. There's secure, which those folk are really good at creating and keeping love. They pick good partners. They're good at giving these 4 feelings of welcomed and worthy and cherished and empowered. And then there's the anxious, who are afraid, when does love go away? They're the ones that text you, oh my God, you haven't texted me in 10 minutes. Where were you? Are you still going to break up with me? All that stuff, right? Or they do protests like, I will break up with you, and, or whatever. The avoidance, they're the dismissives, right? They don't want to feel your feelings. They sure don't want to feel their own. Been there, done that. And they're good at keeping distance. They might marry you, but they still, they keep distance, or they are not committable, what we call the emotionally unavailable man. And then there's disorganized, which is a whole other category, best left to more clinical stuff, because those people got pounded. Okay. And now I ask, so what tells a brain? And we know from attachment theory that there was a very famous experiment where, called the strange situation. Mary Ainsworth did this. Between 10 months and 18 months, they would separate a child from the mother. And then they would see what happened. And then, of course, and what they found out is at the reunion, the way that child would come back and greet their mother or not greet their mother was already a love style, an attachment style that had been set in place, and it would track unless there was intervention. Some babies, they would, mom would go away, and then when they came back, they would be consoled, and they go back and play with their toys. Easily calm downable. It's like some part says, I don't like it when mom goes away, but I know she's coming back. And there she is again. I knew it. That's secure. The anxious, the avoidant baby would just stay playing with her, like, mom left. I'll just keep playing with my toys. That baby has already learned that the bus is going to go and stay away. They are, and they look precociously mature, but they've already learned, I can't depend on love. I better be doing it by myself. These babies, by the way, learn to walk 2 months earlier than secure and anxious babies. So this is not conscious. That's what the research. Isn't that shocking to find out that those babies can walk 2 months early because some
They
part
have
is,
to.
that's right. No one's getting that binky but me. And then you got the anxious, and they're called ambivalent because they could not be consoled, but they would sometimes hit their mother. They were angry and they wanted closer, they didn't, and they would not go back. Now, these grew up to be very preoccupied, and they're the ones that when they get upset, you cannot calm them down. You could get the best person at repair. You could go get Ed Tronick, who's done all the research on repair, and he would take 5 hours to calm this woman down or this man down, wherever they're at. They cannot be consoled. So I ask, okay, what tells that secure baby to be that trusting of mom, and the others not so much? And when you track using developmental psychology, there's only the only thing that's up and running, it's not logic. The prefrontal cortex isn't myelinated. So it's not limiting beliefs. Anybody tells you limiting beliefs is your problem, it isn't. There's something underneath that. It's not your story, even though that's very important. And I even talk about it in my work, and it's not even your explicit memory, that your recall memory, because the hippocampus isn't on yet. Everything is the early feelings. Were you welcomed with joy in the first 2 months? Oh, there's little Adina. Oh my God, we're so glad you're here. Oh, there's Rye. Oh, we were just waiting for you, right? There is, and then is the baby given a chance to feel that they are welcome, they are welcomed, and they are worthy. It's okay to reach out for the needs and give it a little time. Mom and dad will find a way to meet my needs. It's okay, I'm worthy to reach out and get my needs met. Cherished and protected when they're a toddler and they separate, they sometimes learn, well, wait a minute. I thought mom and I were like one, and she's over there and I'm over here. Oh my God, I'm a me. They get a right to separate, but they want to know that someone's looking over them, that they're in a we. That's separate and belong. Me and we. And every couple I've ever worked with, one or both, can't do this. They either they can't make, or there's too much me. You get the marble mate, or you get the enmeshment, right? One or the other. And then did they get a chance to feel empowered with choice? Oh, you wanted to play with a binky, if it's like the little girl down the street. She was out, she likes, she under 2, and there she is playing with her trucks out front. Nobody's running any gender stuff on her, right? Oh, you want to run your trucks? Go ahead and be that way, right? That's a great thing. And so if you get these feelings welcomed and worthy and cherished and empowered, because the only thing running at this time is, guess what? Feelings. That's all the brain is doing. So the only thing that can tell our brain that we're loved, its original GPS, is welcomed, worthy, cherished, and empowered. And then you feel lovable. For just a moment, if you're out there and you're listening, think for a moment of any relationship you've been, 1 to 10. How well did you feel welcome with joy? Did they greet you when they came home at night? Did they give you a hug? Did they wake up in the morning and say, "Good morning, gorgeous"? And then she goes, "She must really love me." Do they feel like they can come and you will meet their needs? Do you feel like that? They will meet your needs? Do you feel that you have a home port in their heart? You can go out and explore your life and your big dreams and come back to the home port of their life, and there's a protective place. There's a we, there's partnership. Do you feel empowered that you can share your voice and it will be received? I didn't say I always agreed with, I said received. Right? If you feel those 1 to 10, you're in a pretty good, and it's high up above 7, you're in a good relationship. But if 1 is missing, you're thinking, you got a few things to work on. If 2 is missing, you're probably thinking, gosh, what is the name of my best friend's therapist or coach? And if 3 or 4 of those feelings are missing, you're in a toxic relationship. And the shock of my life was when I asked the question, I thought it would be a little more, back in the day, a little more logical. And when I found out it was feelings and just feelings that was running the show, I will have to admit to everybody here, I looked up to the heavens and said, okay, now we know you're a woman. But it's tracking feelings. And to be honest, a lot of my my work with husbands, especially when I'm working with couples, is getting them to track feelings, that they're emotional air traffic controllers. And if they don't know where the feelings are, they're not doing their job. If you're going to land the plane of the relationship with everybody in, you need to know, because the transponder is an emotional one. And if a dismissive husband isn't giving a wife or a boyfriend isn't giving their partner feelings, then she gets anxious because she can't track where they're at. And this seems, but then of course, you have to get particularly men more comfortable with their feelings, because it wasn't just early attachment that taught us this. Trust me, I can tell you now, it wasn't just mom that taught me not to have feelings. Everybody and their aunt was telling me this as I grew up. So there's a cultural way we get separated. But the point being is, if you're going to reclaim a secure love style, you have to feel safe feeling welcome, safe feeling worthy, safe feeling empowered and cherished. Explain to that. There's safety that comes with this. With a borderline mother, I would not dare speak my truth. Not dare. I would get knocked against walls. So I could say, oh, here's a communication course. It's safe, but if my brain was saying, no, it's not so safe. It doesn't feel safe. This is why I had all those degrees and I had beautiful courses on communication, but I was scared rotten to ever really talk to my first wife. I knew it. Oh yeah, I knew it. The 3 initials, I knew it. But when it came down to crunch time and saying, gosh, that doesn't feel so good, I go, yeah, sure, hon, and then resent it and find myself in a distant place. So it's the feelings, recovering those, and they all give you rights. They give you a right to reach out. They give you a right to speak your truth. If we want to really become more secure, so we can pick and choose and maintain a loving, lasting relationship, we have to become friends again with these 4 feelings. And I teach my couples to track them every week. How well did I do at the end of the week being a partner? Once with my own, I was in here listening to Doobie Brothers, and I knew she was coming back, but I didn't know that she had left her keys in here, and she was knocking on the door, and I couldn't hear her. And after about 5 minutes, I hear the knock, and I walk out, and I just simply said, "I am so sorry. I bet you didn't feel very welcome with Joy, did you?" "No, I didn't." Because I tracked it in that moment. And then it didn't go elsewhere in the relationship. There was a couple of minutes of needing to make a repair. It's an emotional repair. More emotions, more feelings, less fix. So if you want to know, that's the essential thing that I came up with. And most attachment theory doesn't talk about this emotional. Well, they talk on emotions, but they're not talking about the core key pillars. In fact, one therapist wrote to me, and she's got a New York Times bestseller. She goes, "This book is brilliant. What told you to talk about feelings?" And I almost wanted to say, "What told you not to?" And we had like an hour-long talk. She goes, "My gosh, attachment theory never talks about feelings. It's dry and it's academic." But you have to remember your attachment range stays about 5. So this is why I always ask people for the 5-year-old soundbite. People will come in and they've done coaching and they will talk, "Well, I'm anxious, I'm avoidant." I remember I was dealing with one couple, Dina, and they come in for a session. She goes, and she's a very intelligent woman, and yes, she's a coach, right? And she goes, "There's something in our vortexes that are off, and there's vibrational mismatch, and there's some," and then she goes into chakras, and after 2 minutes, I have no clue what's wrong. And I finally say, "How would a 5-year-old say that?" She goes, and she breaks into tears. She goes, "I just want a playmate." And you can see the husband just, "Oh my God, I don't have to fix the quantum universe. I just have to be a playmate." It's getting down to how that 3, 4, and 5-year-old usually felt in us. It doesn't mean later experience can't affect it. It can. Okay.
For sure.
Usually, I look for that early set of feelings and helping your brain get safe with a better deal, because whatever deal you took was at one time the best deal. I guarantee you, if 4-year-old Gary had used his voice, he would not be talking to you here. Best deal available. But if a brain has to choose between crappy and crappier, it'll choose crappy. Best deal available. So we don't judge that part. My God, whatever is limiting you in love, we want to celebrate. We want to honor, and we want to cherish. We just want to love that part up. But we'd also like to say that day's over. That was then. This is now. And it's safe to come out and to feel and be different.
We have a question in the chat. I don't know if you can see it while you're talking, but how does one befriend those 4 feelings again? The worthy, cherished, empowered, and welcomed.
How do you befriend them? Well, the first thing is, if you have the opposite, if you have unwelcomed or unworthy or not so cherished, unprotected, whatever you're, or disempowered, you don't judge it. You embrace that little wounded child and say, I get it. No wonder you felt that way. And there's a lot of, and then you've got to really work at finding what flavor of safety, if you want, your brain was seeking when it took that feeling off the menu. Let me give you an example. Somebody could be saying, I don't feel comfortable in a we. Now, the flavor of safety, if they were physically abused, is very different than, say, they had like with one guy, he had a very intrusive mother whose face was always parked here. Even at parties as an adult, the joke in the party, you could find out where she was by who was walking backwards, because she was a space invader. Those are, one feels I'm losing myself if I'm in a we. The other one, the safety is I could die if I'm in a we. Both of them will seek distance, maybe in slightly different ways. But if you don't get the flavor of safety, so you got to really understand what flavor of safety. This is why the book is called Safe to Love Again. I didn't say, invited.
Right.
I didn't say inspired. I said safe. And once we find that, then we help the brain. There's various techniques I use in my work that allow that part of your brain, the deep limbic system and implicit memory, to feel they have a right to have that, and they can have it in a way that's safe. Sometimes you might do parts work where you come in and you let that young part know that you're the adult now and you can make sure it's safe. I mean, one of the things that worked for me, when I did some parts work, is when I finally went back as an adult and told that 4 or 5-year-old Gary, I've been a really good father. And I'm a grown man now. No, and what I said to him was, no one will ever screw with you again. And that was the word for me. Everybody will have a different one, but that phrase landed for my 4-year-old. No one will ever screw with you again. And after that, I could speak my truth. Now there was some other work too. So it's showing up as the great protector of that wounded part of you. It's showing up and it's realizing that you were born to have these feelings. They're your natural born birthright. You were born welcomed and to be worthy. Somebody had to teach you to feel unworthy or disempowered. There's no baby that comes out of the womb thinking, my God, I don't want to be put on my mommy's breast. None of them come out thinking that. None of them come out feeling that. And then sometimes, eventually, that will shift how we think about ourselves. It has to shift. You can't be, well, I'm always the loser in love. Boy, you say that, and you will always want to lose. Oh, I'm always the abused one. Once it becomes, so there's an identity level too. It's back here and it's this part. We've got to integrate the brain so you can tell and believe that you have a different story with love you can leave, but that won't happen until you've changed some of those feelings first. And then we put skills on top of that. If you don't do this other deep attachment, you can give couples all the secure skills. That's my big beef with the Gottman research. Wonderful skills, but if the couple is not safe with being close, they won't do it. If they're not safe with communicating, they won't do it. So it's getting your brain back its original factory settings, so to speak, and their feelings.
Can I ask you a question about the timing of that
Sure.
process? So when you're working with an individual or a couple, because you do both, is there a typical, like, okay, you start exploring those underlying feelings and those needs that need to feel safe. How long does it generally take people to change that limbic system message, to rewire that, you know, whatever's going on in there?
If they've got, what I talk about, this is for what I call normal middle class craziness. Right? If someone's really got a personality disorder, this is
right.
That's a whole different animal, right? But if they've got some stuff, it can be 4 or 5 months, maybe. If it's much deeper, and there's what would be called trauma, then at least 6 months to a year. But it doesn't have to take 13 and 14 years either. This is doable change. And every couple, by the way, is whatever missing feeling is, they will pick a partner for that missing feeling, because they didn't have a right. I call these rights as well. They didn't have a right to feel cherished. They didn't feel a right to feel. And then they subconscious says, oh, that's the only thing I have right, is someone I don't feel worthy, so someone that won't track me. Oh, I didn't feel empowered, so someone that will dominate me. And then they will resent it, and they will give each other their missing rights. I call them dueling missing rights. And the key is helping the couple, if they're a couple, work. And I do this, I break them in the second and third sessions privately to find out what were their missing feelings. So then I can explain their pattern. And it's like lights going off. Oh my God, like for instance, one couple, she didn't have a right to separate and belong, all right to be separate. Mom and dad were abusive alcoholics, and she's anxious. I'm knocking on that door and I want in, I want to belong. Now, she was a very successful entrepreneur. Empowered was not her problem. But after 2 divorces, she works with me, and she meets a guy from high school. And he's out of a divorce, and his main feeling isn't so much not being cherished and belonging. His is being disempowered. In 26 years of marriage, he had never initiated sex with his wife. Now, I almost believe that.
Wow.
From my experience, 26 years never initiating, that's how disempowered he felt. And the day came when they're falling in love, but the ex-wife and the kids say, we don't want her at Christmas. And he's the people pleaser. I can't, I'm going to try to make everybody happy. And they okay. And then he comes home and says, well, honey, they didn't want you, so I'll spend Christmas with them, and I'll meet up with you the following day. What did that hit in her? Oh, missing right to belong. And man, she just comes after him. What is he now going to feel like? You guessed it, disempowered. And now they're tumbling down. Disempowered, he can't give her belonging, she takes away his empowerment. When I give him back, or I help him restore and reclaim, give back, it's a little more differently than I wanted to say it there, feeling that it was safe to feel empowered. And he got it naturally. His dad was very dominating. Put him on the wrong bus to school and say, nope, this is the right one. He knew it was wrong. He'd go to the wrong school district. When we got to that, then he could say, you guys are just going to get on board. This is the woman I love. And when she got more of a right, and she could calm down and gently speak, more of a right to belong, then she got that feeling from him. And then what does empowerment look like? When he lost his job in IT within 4 months, being well connected, she got him a brand new job. Now they've been married 5 or 6. They do cherish very well, because I see it on Facebook. and they do empowerment very well, you know. So, but notice you can't do just couples work. You've got to go in and work with those feelings in both of them and give them back the permission slips that they can truly do the whole skill set of love. Because those missing feelings will stop you right in your track. Okay? You know, somebody that felt smothered, they're going to seek distance, or they're going to angrily, if they felt distance, they could just angrily knock at the door. And they can create superheated arguments that just predict divorce. And part of calming down is knowing that you have a right to feel this way.
That's such an important point you're making, Gary. I totally relate to that with some of the clients that I've had, including very, very smart people who even know all the Gottman stuff and they can't use it. And they're just unable to implement it because of what you said, those missing feelings of even being in touch with their feelings.
When I have trained therapists with this, because I've been trained, I even did some at the Gottman Institute in San Francisco, the gay couples. When I told therapists the reason your people aren't doing the skill set is because they don't have the rights to do the skill. They don't have the rights for the experience.
They don't feel safe.
Give them back the rights. What I call these rights and feelings, because every feeling is a permission slip, yes or no. Okay. Then they're not going to do it. And people go, oh my God, that's exactly. I remember one therapist writing me about 2 months later, says, oh my God, now my couples are finally doing what I wanted them to do. You know, because it's in a little bit, the guild of therapy in working with so many skills, and Gottman's a little bit into this. It's a lot like guys in marriages who want to fix rather than feel. It's kind of at a systemic level. And you feel first in the chair when you're with yourself. Feel first, fix second. And I can say that that's been a learning curve for me. How many, anybody here that loves being fixed first? Oh, no hands. I'm so surprised. So it's feelings. And even to your niche, when people are blending families, Adina, they're trying to fix a problem versus feel into the kids. That kid has just suffered, is blending a family. They don't know what's going on. This right to separate and belong is all over the place for them. Absolutely. What do you mean I got a right to belong? I got it all blown up a couple of years ago. Maybe I'm supposed to trust this going to happen again. I don't know this person, or they
not just the kid. It's the step parent also feels that belonging issue.
Yeah. Track the feelings first. It's okay that you feel like you lost half yourself and you don't trust what you're getting here. If more people would track feelings in their kids, and they would track feelings within themselves, they would track feelings between them and their spouse. And it's little tiny moments. I want to tell you, these are you thinking big pictures. And in the book, I went big picture feelings, and these are the adult patterns. And people say, oh my God, it's eye-opening. But these feelings are given and lost. Love is won and lost in little tiny 6-second moments. I call it, you have to become a master of the moment, because it's little things. I got that from Gottman. When they took couples into the Love Lab and they recorded them, the scientists would break everything into 6-second increments and then record all sorts of things. And I began to realize, watching, and then I had breakfast with Gottman, and Gottman said, yeah, that's all. Everything isn't, the devil's in the process. You watch the process between a couple or in yourself in real time. It might go like this. Like with one couple I talked with, he had a missing right to create his own experience, which means I'm going to be dismissive and I'm going to go on these retreats myself. And they came in thinking, we had done Tony Robbins privately, by the way. We have done Deepak Chopra. We have done, it looked like a who's who of true, sounds true. It looked like, and they say, we thought by working on ourself that we'd have a better relationship. Well, that's the issue. They both worked on themselves, but they didn't know and understand a we. Neither of them
Mhm.
did. She from an anxious, him from an avoidant. Neither of them knew how to create a we. And one time I'm talking to them and in a session about communicating, and I've gotten him to start feeling, know how to really feel what she's feeling in a tune. But they're saying we still get into fights. And then when he started speaking his truth, this is how it went. When he began to speak his truth, he would start looking down. And I recognized this is what babies do when you have an intrusive mother. This is old patterning in his brain before he's even conscious. And he talks by thinking here. Now, when he's not looking at her, he doesn't see this. He doesn't see this.
Mhm.
He doesn't see the white come out. Now, if he had been looking at her, he could have seen, oh, that word didn't land. Maybe I could use another one. He could make a real quick repair in that 6 seconds. And when he looked down, 5 minutes later, she would blow up because 7 or 8 different words had not been repaired in those little moments. And then they'd be off to the race. So I got him to be able to keep looking at her and talking at first. He says, I can't look and think at the same time. And I said, you're a CEO. You've got to be able to do this. And after 45 minutes, I began to show him, okay, notice the physiology in her face. Notice that when they head back, notice the eye roll. That's contempt. That didn't land. And he began making little tiny, and I said, that isn't landing for him either, by the way, right? 2 weeks later, beginning to track little moments, not big moments. They come in and say, oh my God, 80% of our arguments went away because in little tiny moments, he was managing the moment of connection versus thinking big picture. These feelings are given in the tiniest of little moments. And any couple, if you think about it, you know this is true. One missing bid for attention at a time.
Absolutely.
And you could miss them for the best of it, And if some part of you floated away above space in time to avoid maybe a critical mom or dad, and you disconnected, then that pattern of disconnection that was once safe is killing you in the relationship. And now we got to get you safe being back in your body. That's called a missing right to exist. Or we get you feeling good being in a we. And no matter where you are in relationships, it's how well we give and receive. And when we don't give them, and we will all not give them at times, I am not good enough to be 100% with her. And I have tried to be perfect, but it's above my pay grade so far. But it's the repair process. Repair first feelings. 70% of the time, Ed Tronick's research in a book called The Power of Discord says couples are in a place where they're not totally aligned they're in a place of disrepair or disconnect. Doesn't mean horrible, but it can be little tiny things. Third of the time connected, third of the time maybe not so much or a lot, and third of the time trying to get back. It's how you make these repairs, and I guarantee you, and that if you just try to think of the skill set, well, Terry Real says we need to use the feedback loop, and you have not felt, man, you must be really upset. Oh Lord, that you will get all sorts of little feelings back from that spouse. I don't want to do a feedback. You're not the expert in me. I made that mistake once.
Can I say something real quick?
Yeah. Go ahead.
I'm noticing the time. I wanted to make sure that you have time to answer questions if people have any, which I'm sure they will, because you have shared such an amazing amount of information in 42 or 40 minutes, not even 40 minutes. We still have just about 8 minutes left, and I'm wondering if you were, how much time you were going to give people for that, and also talking about how they can work with you.
Okay, I would love to do that. I mean, I just
Because I know.
Well, I know you, so I knew what you wanted me to kind of talk about.
Yeah, and I know you could fill up. You have spent hours talking about this, so there's so much more to what Gary has to say that all I can say is, if this talk resonated with you, and also those of you who are new here, this is a QR code. You can hover over it and upgrade to VIP if you feel like you absolutely must have this recording or any of the other ones that you've been listening to so far. And also there are many, many gifts that our speakers are providing that are unbelievable gifts that are just so worthwhile. So Gary,
Okay.
I'm giving it back to you.
Cool. Wait, ask me any questions. By the way, in relationships, the heart and soul of it is how well you create a way, whether it's with your kid or your, it's not an accident that I have this thing behind me, the we. So didn't get a lot of chance, but a little bit. So who's got a question? I would love to answer a question.
Gosh, I can't believe there's no hands going up. Really? People are still digesting because there is just so many layers. All those books behind Gary, those are real. That's not a virtual background. he's really got and read probably those books, knowing him. And he is just a fountain of knowledge and wisdom. And I have such deep respect for your work, Gary. I've actually gone through it myself with the Holocaust survivor stuff in my family. And that was, let me tell you, that was powerful. Spend a couple of hours with Gary. You will come up with some amazing, transformative insights and hopefully more than insights, hopefully steps that you can take to move forward.
And feelings are way better. I mean,
feelings are way better.
I want to be I don't mind being a fountain of knowledge, but I have learned in my that and $5 might get you something at Starbucks. Being a fountain of secure feelings, that's it. That's was that a question I just saw there?
Yes, Gary, I have a question. I took so much note. Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Who am I talking to?
It's Ree.
Ree. Oh, Ree.
How are you? It is so good, everything that you shared. Oh my God. And I'm actually having my boyfriend actually listening to this too. So talk to me about like all those feelings, the 4 feelings of feeling welcome, cherished, worthy, and secure. Like for like a lot of men, like feeling is a really hard thing. When you were saying about husband, getting them attuned to feeling, how does one start when it's so foreign for men? Like you have this to resort, you feel something, you get angry, you explode. Like men have very fewer range of different feelings that they can express. So how do one go about in achieving those 4 feelings?
Okay. Yeah, and this is, yes, with men it is. I mean, I have that place. I mean, the joke I've told on stage is men are allowed 3 feelings: anger, horny, and horny. You know? That's basically the 3 feelings. You know, one is, you know, most men are thinking, I will climb any mountain, I will beat off any fire-breathing dragon. Please don't make me look at a feeling, you know. And because we've been told we're wusses and all sorts of things, and we have gotten that message. Believe me, we got it. Every one of us got it, and we got it all over the board. And some part of us just think, well, in order to be loved, we can't have our feelings, which is the exact opposite. You know, I find out, I know there's the cultural thing. I usually have that talk that you were born to have feelings. And I find out, and then I work with the little one. What told them to turn it off, right? You know, and I also do work with getting them in their bodies. Every feeling has a somatic. The gateway is to get them to feel what's in the body. And then you just, after you've done some safety, go, if that sensation had words, what would it say? And then when they get comfortable and I go, what are they feeling? And they go, I can only feel, I just feel something here. Well, what was somebody else like you? Well, somebody else like me, it might be anger, you know, or it might be, it's hopeless. You know, and they don't want to admit they're hopeless because that's like weak, right? And I go, yeah, just sit with that. That makes sense, doesn't it? Yeah, I do feel hopeless. I felt that way a long time. And you just have to really hold space for helping them realize that feelings are their friends, not their mortal enemies. Does that make sense? Now, there's a lot of work with any one given man. or, there's no more, but they have to get the message it's okay. And then we have to go back and progressively find out what the little one learned and sometimes what the adult learned. I mean, I've had girlfriends that said to me, I once had a dog die, and she simply said, "Stop crying. I want a man."
Wow.
I was in my 40s.
Oh, wow.
I was in my 40s when I got that one.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's not just a borderline mother.
No.
And I've even had love coaches say, I want him to show up strong, and I know I don't want it, but when he sometimes has feelings and I'm not happy with him, well, you can't say you want him to have his feelings, but then tell him when you're safe and not safe. It's okay for him to be afraid. You have to make it safe all the time.
For the men to actually be able to feel the feeling that they have, which is just so opposite. Like, we think the men needs to be masculine, and then we say we want them to be attentive, we want them to be affectionate, and then as soon as they show a little bit of emotion, we're like criticizing them, which is horrible.
Yeah, notice you said masculine as if it excluded feelings.
Oh no. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I found out that one time when I was being a really good dad, after about 4, somebody said, "Well, you're really in your feminine." And I'm going, "Oh, no, I'm not. This is just me as a man that just loves his son."
Yeah.
And that was the first time I started asking that. But
Gary, we're about to run out of time, and
Thank
I know
you.
that we have another speaker right after you. I'm not sure if she's flexible at all with going into the break time by 2 minutes. Dr. Karen?
so do you want me to say how people?
Yes,
If-
how people can work with you if they so
if you
choose.
want to reach out to me, you can you can go to my website, GarySalyer.com, and there's a little free gift there. If you sign up, I'll be that. But you can contact me there. There's a contact form, or you can just write me directly at Dr. Gary, DrGary, at GarySalyer.com, SALYER.com. So either contact me through the couples or singles page, which we'll get there, or you just write me, Dr. Gary at GarySalyer.com. And we can set up a time to talk and see if this type of work is what you need, either as a single or couple.
And read this book. Get this book. It's awesome.
And Adina, we've known each other for 13 years. Thank you. And Rye, good meeting you. We'll have to set up that coffee shop, that virtual coffee thing. So, and everybody who's here, thank you. It has been an honor to be with you this morning.
And thank you so much, Gary. Thank you for making my job as an interviewer so easy. You always have so many valuable things to say and great stories. I love hearing you talk about your work. And I hope that some of you will get a chance to know Gary better, or refer people to him. He's incredible.
He's amazing. I'm definitely taking that coffee. Virtual coffee. Thank you, Gary.
Thank you. All righty then. And
Thank you. And I'm going